welcome to Bandio Rubin's Unorthodox Wisdom for Modern Man, the podcast for traditional men of faith and vision who are sick and tired of discovering that Sunday's sermon doesn't always fix Monday's problem. If you're doing everything you can to live by the book and still find yourself feeling sad, mad, sick, or tired, you, my friend, are in the right place. My name is Ruben, husband, father of 7, carpenter, cartoonist, and former chronic complainer. Around my neck of the woods, we are waiting for the snow to start falling. It's not a matter of if it's going to start snowing, it's a matter of when. And I'm thinking the when is going to be pretty soon. Time to bring in everything that you don't want to disappear for the next 6 months, because that snow will eat it and it will be gone. When I was in high school, there were 2 kinds of kids. Kids who did school-sponsored activities, band, speech, debate, theater, sports, and kids who did not. I did not, and most of my friends didn't either. Every now and then, however, we'd hear little whispers about what life was like for all those kids who volunteered to spend their weekends and evenings at school. And one of those whispers was about the most unfun band trip of all time. I wasn't there, but I did hear about it, and this is how I imagine it going down. It's Saturday evening. All of the band kids are bundled into the school tour buses, wearing their matching uniforms, polishing their instruments. Maybe they're all playing their instruments. Maybe they're all singing "The Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round." I don't know. I didn't go to that sort of thing. But there's trouble brewing on the second to last bench. Little Stevie, the saxophone player, has gotten very quiet. "What's wrong?" asks Tina, the trumpet player. "I don't know," says Stevie, clutching his saxophone. His knuckles start turning white. "I don't feel so good." The bus hits a big pothole. Suddenly, Stevie lurches forward. His face turns green. The bus hits another pothole. His lunch decides it's time to come back to say hello. But there's nowhere to go. Everyone's there. There's no time to stop the bus. In a moment of panic, Stevie grabs the nearest container he can find. It's Tina's trumpet case, and he throws up inside. Everyone stops singing about bus wheels. All eyes turn to poor mortified Stevie. All eyes except one pair. The pair belonging to Tony, the tuba player, who's always had a weak stomach. So weak, in fact, that even seeing or hearing someone throw up is enough to make him nauseous. The bus hits another pothole. And Tony's lunch goes in one of those fancy little band people top hat things with the chains on top. And just like that, like dominoes, more people start throwing up. Maybe it's the noise. Maybe it's the smell. Either way, by the time the exhausted bus driver crawls into the school parking lot, the vomit apocalypse has wreaked havoc on the entire band. It looks like a hospital waiting room, bodies sprawled everywhere. Now, I wasn't there, and I couldn't tell you who told me the story, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't that colorful. But my point is this. One person on that bus started to throw up, and it began a chain reaction, and before long, a whole bunch of people were throwing up. Now, what you may be wondering, what does this have to do with being a blue-collar hillbilly, Reuben? And I say it actually has quite a bit to do with being a blue-collar hillbilly. Let me tell you, a few years ago, I was working on a job where various employees had opinions about the on-site management. And one dude would be like, "Can you believe what so-and-so said?" And then another dude would chime in with some snide remark of agreement. And then another dude would chime in too. And just like that happy high school band and the amazing vomiting bus, the nausea would spread until everyone was hurling. Except instead of throwing up our lunches, we were vomiting complaints, discontentment, and ill will. I know you're probably expecting me to say that I never took part in this. I mean, especially given my sterling reputation and impeccable judgment. But unfortunately, I did do my share of complaining. And this is what would happen. The first fellow would say something and part of me would agree. It would trigger the anger that I already felt towards that unfortunate situation and throw even more fuel on my fire. Then another guy would say something negative, and that would be more fuel. And then I would say something negative. You might be thinking, well, no harm there, right? Isn't it healthy to let off steam? Well, that's what they say. And so maybe it is healthy, but letting off steam implies that it releases pressure and alleviates some kind of stress. But for me, it didn't work that way at all because giving voice to it, it made it permanent. What had just been a passing feeling of displeasure got clarified and codified. It became something concrete, an effigy which we could all add to and which we could all take home with us at the end of the day. So and so didn't just have the management position. So and so became a jerk. I can't believe he mistreats people like that. Who does he think he is? Rather than alleviating negativity, verbalizing my complaints multiplied them and enshrined them. And the crazy thing is, once you go down that negative road, it's like sledding downhill. You got to get a couple of pushes to get going. But once you start going, your momentum picks up and you go faster and faster and faster until you can't even decide how fast you're going to go anymore. You're just going downhill. Your brain is always listening to what you feed it. It is a complex filtering system that filters the millions of sights, sounds, and ideas that bombard you all the time. It's called the reticular activating system, and it only lets through what it thinks is important for your survival or your goals. Whatever you focus on, rehearse, or emotionally charge gets tagged as important. And the reticular activating system starts noticing more of it everywhere. It doesn't create reality, but it so deeply controls what you noticed that it can sure feel like it does create reality. So I'd listen to the guys, do some whining too. And then I'd walk around the rest of the day, mad, seeing more and more stuff that did make me mad, sad, and just plain unthankful for my lot in life. Now listen to the scientific mechanics of what all this negativity happens. So you get agitated. The amygdala, the brain's burglar alarm, starts saying, danger, danger. And then that panic button, once it gets hit, your cortisol, that's your stress juice, shoots up. Your adrenaline starts pumping. Your body gets ready to run or fight. The body enters threat mode. Your heart begins to beat faster. Your muscles tense up, and everything feels urgent. It's like your body is suddenly thinking, we might be in danger. Everybody get ready. Even if the danger is just your boss acting like a cranky little girl on her period. Or there's a bunch of guys focusing on that time when your boss was having his period 2 weeks ago. Your body doesn't know the difference. So you start focusing on that stuff. And your reticular activating system is, this is important. We better focus on more of this stuff. Now, meanwhile, your body's threat systems are listening and they start pumping out adrenaline and cortisol and all of these chemicals that change how your body's working physically. And then a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex shuts down. This is the wise, thoughtful dad brain part, the part that helps you stay calm, patient, and rational. But when the alarm goes off too loudly for too long, this part of the brain goes, well, I'm out. And when that happens, you get less patience, less wisdom, less fatherly calm, and more angry lawn gnome mode. And what do you think would happen when I get in the car at the end of the day of working myself into a tizzy by stoking the fires of workplace angst? Do you think I would take a deep breath and thank God for my steady job, the decent pay, the cool stuff I helped to build throughout the day? Of course not. My nervous system didn't magically shut down. I drove home spinning my wheels 1,000,000 miles an hour, trying to figure out how to get out of this hellhole of a job. It wasn't a hellhole, but the workplace conversation and my acceptance of it, and me choosing to continue it in my own head, had so warped my own perception that it sure felt like a hellhole. What do you think would happen when I'd walk in the front door and see my beautiful family waiting for me? When my faithful wife asked me, "How was your day?" Do you think I'd say, "Oh, it was wonderful. I can't believe how nice the weather was. I'm so thankful for so on and so forth"? Of course not. I'd go, "Man, what a day." And then I would proceed to vomit complaints all over my house. And when my kids wanted attention, do you think I was chipper and full of energy? Of course not. My adrenal glands had been firing all day like a lawnmower trying to cut a gravel driveway. My brain had been tuned to find problems. My gratitude had been clubbed and left unconscious behind the porta potty. I was exhausted. It had been a terrible day. I needed some me time. I needed a minute to unwind. I needed a beer. This is what Scripture says. Above all else, guard your heart, for out of it flow the issues of life. That's Proverbs 4:23. Your heart is like an atmosphere. Your body responds to that atmosphere like plants in a garden respond to the environment. The people in your family have to eat the fruit of that garden. You walk in the door and bring all that negativity with you, and the next thing you know, everyone's negative, and the dog's waiting by the back door to get out, looking at you with eyes that say, "Just get me out of here, boss." So in a minute, I'm going to talk about how I dealt with the situation at work. But first, I want to tell you an old Japanese story that nicely recaps what I've been describing. Two monks carried a woman across a muddy patch. Hours later, one monk still fumed about it. The other said, "I put her down miles ago. Why are you still carrying her?" Complaining is mental carrying. Long after the moment passes, we rehearse it until the soul is exhausted. Rather than seeing the good that is baked into every moment, we only see the negativity. Rather than being grateful for all the good that there is, we're complaining about the stuff we dislike because we don't have the faith to see how truly good each moment could be if we just had the eyes to see it. I actually teach my children that complaining is cursing. At its root, we are cursing the loving God who has brought us to this moment and gives us this moment as a genuine act of love and kindness. And the only reason we don't see it is because we're blind. Or, if you like it better, you could describe complaining as vomiting. Except instead of regurgitating our last meal, we're regurgitating all of the ingratitude we've been fermenting in our hearts. Now, don't get me wrong. When the wind bites like daggers and your nostrils have been frozen shut for the last 5 hours, there's nothing wrong with saying, "Gosh darn it, this weather stinks." But you and I both know the difference between the companionable, good-natured grumbling of working men who are being bludgeoned by life and the workplace, and the complaining of a bunch of guys chewing on sour grapes and racing to see who can develop stress-induced stomach ulcers first. And if you're thinking stress doesn't cause ulcers, well, then you're right. Stress doesn't actually cause ulcers. But me saying that helped you get the point, right? Anywho, maybe you're realizing that you're a complainer, or maybe you work with some complainers. What are you supposed to do? Well, there's an old Chinese saying that says, "Old muddy water clears when it is still." You can start clearing the muddy water inside of you by making your mouth stop dumping mud, stop voicing your complaints, make your mind stop stirring the water. Start choosing different thoughts and redirect it when it tries to go back to ruminating on lame stuff. Standing in complaining culture is like standing in a river of mud. I know, I've been there. But you don't have to drink it or add to it. There is a reason that St. Paul wrote, "Whatsoever things are true, modest, just, think on these things." He was teaching us how to drive our brains. It's mental and, by extension, emotional stewardship. Just like we can think about bad things and that trains our body to look for bad things, trains that reticular activating system to go on a manhunt for bad stuff. Well, you start focusing on the good stuff and you actually start feeling it and letting it just kind of soak in and make you grateful. Well, then that same system is paying attention and it says, "Oh man, well, Reuben wants to be happy. He wants to look for nice things. Let's go find him some nice things." The stakes are pretty high, besides the obvious havoc that complaining wreaks on your moment by moment experience. The Bible puts it like this: a sorrowful mind drieth up the bones. Negativity, like we talked about earlier, that affects your whole body, affects your heart, if it dries you out. So, what happened at my workplace? I'll tell you. I was working with a couple of buddies of mine. We were up on a roof. The management was, I'll put it like this, they were doing their thing. The other guy started complaining. And I think one of my friends tried to bring me into the conversation. But I put on my big boy underwear and I said, I don't really want to talk about this. We start talking about XYZ and I get mad and then I'm just mad all day and it's no fun. And they said, oh. And then one of them turned to the other one and said, Ruben doesn't want to talk about XYZ because it makes him mad and unhappy. And then we didn't. And it was nice. So what should you do? Well, if you're working with good or reasonable men, you can do what I did. That was great because I think it helped all of us, at least for that day. So maybe your coworkers will need some convincing. Explain to them the mechanics of what happens when we focus on negativity, like I explained earlier when I mentioned all the sciencey stuff. Everyone wants to be happier, so they might be genuinely thankful for what you tell them. Heck, it might just make a big difference in their lives, in which case you just turned into a superhero. Now, even if they don't understand why you don't want to complain or have to listen to a whole bunch of complaining, they'll probably get the point and find something else to talk about. My experience is that in general, people want to get along and pass the time reasonably well and get along well with coworkers. And in this case, you're their coworker, so chances are they're probably going to be pretty happy to just kind of redirect or maybe not include you. Either way, because they probably want to pass the time reasonably well, they'll probably lay off the complaint vomiting, at least for a little while, or they're going to try to find something else to talk about with you. Worst scenario, you'll get teased. No fun, but not the end of the world, especially if you can laugh about it or give it right back. In closing, though, complaining is emotional vomiting. It was never meant to be your daily diet. It wasn't meant to be my daily diet. It's not good. Your brain becomes what it rehearses. Your attitude decides the spiritual environment of your entire home. So it's pretty darn important what we do those 8 hours while we're at work. So what can you do? Couple steps for you. 1, become the man who doesn't catch the stomach virus. One calm dude can reset an entire crew, not with lectures, with redirection. Examples, for instance, your boss is frustrating, but insert some good news. Insert a different way of looking at the situation. He's probably having a bad day. Whatever. Anybody try that new taco place in town? Or you can be kind of blunt and honest. Hey, I don't want to talk about XYZ because I end up feeling like such and such, and I don't like that. I think people beat around the bush too often, so it's kind of refreshing when someone is straight up and honest without being angry. Authenticity is so rare that I think it does shock people in a good way. And so if you just tell people, look, I get mad, that doesn't make me very happy. Why don't we talk about something else? People are going to respect that because it's rare. It's like a drink of cool, fresh water. Okay, and then inside of yourself, you could build a gratitude interrupter. Ask yourself internally, what's one good thing going on right now? My hands work. I'm earning for my family. The sky is real. At least I'm not in a high school band tour bus with everyone puking. God woke me up today for a reason. How can I experience communion with God right now? That's a great question to ask yourself. I love it because I feel like it enriches every part of my life. And when you ask for good and you try to focus on good, your brain begins scanning for good. Your brain is your faithful servant, and like a good doggy, it will fetch what you train it to fetch for you. You're not at the mercy of the emotional weather around you. You can change the atmosphere of a job site. You can change the climate of your home. You can shift the emotional inheritance of your children. And you do it by guarding your inner gate, by choosing your thoughts, by stewarding your reactions, and by refusing to vomit when everyone else is. If this episode helped you, share it with the dude who's been coming home exhausted for all the wrong reasons. And don't forget, if you spend 8 hours in a cloud of anger, you'll bring it home in your lunchbox.